Uh, should I start?
1 minute. Yes, you can start.
Yes. Good evening, friends. Welcome to the global webinar of Saraswat Chambers. As you know, we are having a lot of webinars in last 3 months on all the relevant topics that are there. So today's topic for the webinar is on the data security and privacy. I am Bhushan Nemlekar, Director of Global Chamber of Saraswat Entrepreneurs, a non-profit organization which was formed around in September 19. I would like to share few things about the chamber before we start our webinar. This chamber was a concept of around young businessmen and professionals from our community who came together in last year and decided that we should have some community support for entrepreneurs, and we can encourage entrepreneurs from our community to grow and come together. So this platform we have created, and I'm very happy that we have more than 200 members now on this platform, and more are joining. So we have been taking a lot of relevant issues on business related matters, on income tax, GST, different SME platforms. So today's subject on the webinar is about data security and privacy, as everybody in last 2-3 months has been maybe working from home or at a remote location. So there are a lot of new challenges about how the data is secure or what are the risks related to that data. So today we have on our panel Shivangi Nadkarni and our director Amit Pandit, who will be taking this webinar forward. Here I would like to introduce Amit Pandit, who is a chartered accountant and has a very vast experience of last 25 years in different financial management, financial accounting, risk accounting, and he has been on the board of director of Saraswat Bank for last 10 years. And he has been on the board of directors of a lot of listed companies, and he is coaching also to a different business schools into, and he is doing consulting at the various consulting firms. So I would like Amit to take this forward and take this webinar ahead. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you, Bhushan. Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, friends. Welcome to this webinar by Global Chamber of Saraswat Entrepreneurs. We are talking on a contemporary topic, which is the most sought after and the most important topic in today's world: data security and privacy. To speak on that, we have with us an expert from the security and privacy domain. I will briefly introduce her. She has done her graduation from BITS Pilani, Rajasthan. She has done her MBA from IIM Calcutta. She has done her CISA. She has a CIPT, and she is a privacy professional from DSCI. She has worked with SIFI. She started her career with SIFI. She started after a substantial amount of years in SIFI. She had a stint with Wipro. Post that, she started her own in 2012 with the company Arrka Infosec Private Limited. She is an expert on privacy and security. Welcome, Shivangi.
Thank you, Amit.
To start off the program, the first question, which is from a layman's perspective, is like today we do all our transactions, all our information sharing on a mobile. We download a lot of apps on the mobile. We use the banking transaction. We use it for our WhatsApp. We use it for mails. Now, when we talk about security and privacy, we are freely doing all these things. How do you look at this when people today, everybody is downloading all the apps left, right, and center? Now, when we download an app, the app generally asks for some permissions. But on an Android phone, generally we just click accept, and go ahead because there is no other choice. So how do you look at these apps?
Great. So first of all, thanks a lot to the Saraswat Chamber for inviting me for this webinar. I think you've asked me many questions in one shot. So the way I typically like to approach this is, if it's okay with you, I'll run you through a small introductory presentation so that it will give a brief sort of background. And then based on that, I could answer some of these questions that you've asked, because the answers are not in one sentence.
Great. So I think we can do that. So you can start with the presentation and we will take up the question and answers as we go ahead.
Sure. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So I'll just take you through, what are some of the basic, issues that concern security and privacy in today's world. The terms are also sometimes used interchangeably. So, I'd like to clarify what is the difference between the two also. And then look at the risks that we typically face, both as individuals as well as small businesses. Okay. Please, Amit, feel free to stop me at any point if you feel that, you need any questions further. Quick introduction about my company. This was co-founded by me and my colleague Samir Anja, who's ex-KPMG. We've been around since 2012, primarily focused on the two domains of privacy and security, been one of the early entrants in the privacy space in India. And we worked with both, on one side, very large organizations, some of the large banks, as well as with a whole bunch of small organizations as well. We have a special platform, the Arrka Intelligent Platform, which we use to cater to specifically to the SMB segment. And we've had fortunate enough to be recognized for our work by various folks. And we do a lot of work on propagating this amongst other organizations as well. So let's get straight to the topic. The COVID reality is what we call dealing with the new normal, right? So what has really happened? So on the work front, if you see, one is the reality of work from home, right? Which means, and it has happened suddenly, literally overnight. Most organizations were unprepared. In fact, people, organizations, the manufacturing, infrastructure, retail, and other what I call high-touch industries were, it was literally, carpet being pulled from under their feet. And therefore, the struggle was right from some very basic issues like what cannot be handled remotely, what can be done remotely. There was basic infrastructure issues about, computers, network. We know of people who, over a period of 2 days shipped physical, machines, PCs to their employees' homes. What applications can be used, and even training, skills, mindset of issues to do with how to work remotely. Finding the budgets overnight to enable this, especially when revenues have shrunk, and addressing all the risks that have thrown up. What has happened on the home front? If you see, work from home, study from home for all the children in our families, even entertainment and socializing has all shifted online, right? And therefore, each family member is impacted. There's a spike in the use of devices and internet, and therefore the exposure to cyber risk has gone up without the necessary awareness that is required to deal with it, right? So let's understand what really are cyber risks so that we don't fear them. It's not a either or situation. So remember, where there is data, where there is internet, there are risks, right? I like to categorize them into two categories. One is what we call risks from above board legitimate activities, and another set which is risks from below the line criminal activities. Okay. Let's look at below the line criminal activities, because typically when we think of anything to do with security, we think of hackers and what gets published in the media. So that's what this is, below the line criminal activities are about. Okay. So by the way, did you know that today cybercrime generates more revenues and is more profitable than drug trafficking? In fact, this has been the reality for the last several years. Okay. It's the largest underworld revenue generator. So the common question which over so many years people have been asking me, and this hasn't changed, is that, but I am a nobody, right? So why would anybody want to target me or my company or have any idea, right? So remember that, the bad guys, so called, they want your data because they either want to sell it and there's a lot of value to it, or they want to steal from you, or they want to use you as a pawn or a vehicle for some other larger attack. You're not the ultimate target, somebody else is the target. Okay. You also have the good guys, and the good guys want your data to understand you thoroughly so that they can target you for ads, sell products, or even influence your thoughts and opinions and nudge you. Okay. And we'll take a look at both. So remember that you matter. Okay. So what do the bad guys or the cyber criminals do? First of all, they steal your data, or they can damage, destroy your data. They can steal what are known as credentials, user ID, passwords. They can spy on you, can inject malware, which is, a virus and various cousins of viruses that can again damage your data or infrastructure, or gain access to third parties, other parties' infrastructure via you. They can use your data to use your infrastructure to launch attacks on somebody else, or just crash your infrastructure, make it unavailable. Okay. So just to give a thought to how valuable your data is, and this information is a little dated also, by the way. Okay, this is the kind of value that your your information carries today in the cyber underworld. Okay, by the way, India is known as the spam capital of the world. So remember that however insignificant you are, there is value with your credentials. Okay. I don't know how many of you have heard of Jamtara. Tara is a small district in Jharkhand. Nothing to its credit except the fact that it is considered the hub of cybercrime in India. Okay, you can Google it after this webinar. There's also a documentary that has come out on this. Basically, Jamtara, it goes to show that you don't need to be highly educated. You don't need to be an English speaking tech savvy individual to become a cyber criminal. Okay. It can be just a bunch of very school level at max educated individuals with access to a good mobile phone and a network, who can go out and create conduct a whole bunch of criminal activities. Okay. So what are the weapons that cyber criminals use? Okay. Let's say there's you with your various devices, and I use the term device because today a laptop has you can do exactly with your phone or your iPad or your as you can with your laptop. One weapon which is often ignored is unpatched software or apps. So I'm sure a lot of you get alerts from time to time to upgrade your app, upgrade your software on your laptop, and a lot of us tend to ignore it. Remember that it is often a hole that gets created if you don't patch your apps very quickly. The other is by sending you malicious files. They could be documents, they could be videos, they could be photos. I know most of us tend to open every photograph and every video that is sent to us on WhatsApp, right? Remember that it can also be a malicious one. Okay. Malicious websites itself. You certain websites, by just visiting them, you end up downloading a bunch of malware on your machine, and that could be then used to carry out attacks. Okay. Phishing. A lot of us are aware of phishing simply because we keep getting mails from messages from our banks and from other institutions saying we don't ever give out your user ID or password or your ATM pin. We'll never ask you for it. It's basically because of phishing. There's a cousin of phishing called phishing, where you get calls and somebody's trying to extract data, information from you via speaking on the phone. Okay. Then another very big attack vector, as it's called, is insecure Wi-Fi connects, especially the public Wi-Fis, which are available in a lot of public places. Very risky to use because they tend to be insecure. Okay. Social engineering, just making friends with somebody and convincing someone to give out information and then using that against that person. Okay. And of course, stolen credentials. It's they put there are tools available to steal your user ID password. So, for example, a lot of you would have seen on high risk websites like your banking, which has this virtual keyboard. The reason you have that virtual keyboard is because there are a lot of what are called keystroke loggers that can capture what you type, and therefore it always makes sense to use a virtual keypad wherever it is available. Okay, so when all of this sort of comes together, it's used to either deposit malware, it is used to steal and use your credentials and grab control of your device. Okay, so these are the weapons that are used. So therefore, what do we need to do? Managing cybersecurity is about basically managing risks as individuals, each of us, and as an organization if you're running your own small business. Okay, so this we just talked about what we call below the surface crime related risks. Now let's talk about risks which are above board, from legitimate activities, so called. Okay, so remember that today we create digital footprints via all that we do, where we go, who we like, who we chat with, what movies we watch, what we read online, what music we listen to, where we shop, what we browse, whatever we do. All of this is collected, it's analyzed, it's organized by algorithms, and a unique digital footprint for each of us gets created. Okay, how is that possible? It's via the content that you actively volunteer. For example, let's say what you've pasted on, Facebook, or what you like, or you comment on some blog post, or you have a whole bunch of what I like to call silent watchers to observe and record what you do online. And all of this is sort of aggregated. So what are some of these silent watchers, right? A lot of us have heard of cookies, the small files that are deposited on your device, and cookies are good. A lot of them are needed for certain websites to function, but they can also be used to track you and monitor you. Okay. Similarly, you have what is known as device fingerprinting, which is all sorts of details about your device, right from timestamp, size of your font, which browser plugins you use. Lots of unique points about your particular device is captured, and a unique fingerprint is created. In fact, this is again used for good stuff. Like, for example, today if you log into either a banking or even your social media sites like Facebook, tomorrow you log into it from a new device completely, it'll send you an alert, right? Ask you, are you, try to prove, ask you for a new, password or an extra PIN, or send you an OTP. How do they know you're logging in from a new device? It is because of this device fingerprinting technology that's working. So there are benefits to this, but the same thing can be used to track you also. Okay. Then the big thing, dangerous permissions taken by your apps. All your apps, an app connects to your phone via something called permissions. Most of them are required for it to function. But then there are certain what are known as dangerous permissions. These are basically used to collect information about you, like access to camera, access to microphone, access to your location, your phone call records, your contacts, your calendar, even monitoring the state of your battery, which Wi-Fi connections, which Wi-Fi networks are in your vicinity. You may not be even connected to them. And this list just goes on and on and on. Okay. So, and then I'm not getting into the list. There are a ton of tracking mechanisms. The folks like our company, it's our business to keep track of this, and it's very creative. Technology really gallops ahead. Okay. So in short, when you are online, all sorts of data is being collected about you all the time. Your profile and your identity is being built. So let's see what happens in the background. Okay. See the mobile ecosystem itself. So your mobile devices have apps on it. As I said, apps connect to your phone via permissions. Most of them are required, but some of them are dangerous. Okay. The second thing is every app has pieces of software code, we call them SDKs, which belong to an external third party, which is also embedded in the app. Now, a lot of this is required for the extra functionality in the app itself. But remember that whatever data is collected via permissions by the app is also available to these third parties. So it gets shared, and each of them then pushes it out into huge ecosystems of people. So you really have no control over what data about you is going out. Okay. Similarly, the web ecosystem. You have a whole bunch of tracking technologies. Remember, the web has been around for decades, and these are very, very sophisticated tracking technologies, some of which we discussed, which can again be used for the same thing, collect data about you in the background and then use it to share with others. A lot of you would have seen, very convenient sign in via Facebook, sign in via Google, etc. Right? But remember that moment that happens, particular website or app that you use to sign into connects to your account on Facebook or Google or whatever that you have used, and collects information from you directly over there. Okay, so something that you need to keep in mind, that when you use a convenience, there's a trade-off. Okay. At Arrka, we run an annual study of the state of privacy of Indian mobile apps on websites, and we just study Indian apps and how they are doing with respect to privacy. These are some stats from our latest report. Okay, about 75% of Indian apps have access to your exact location. About 66% have access to details about, including your phone number. 58% have access to camera. Okay, and 40% can read your contacts. Okay. It has come down a little bit in iOS because iOS has tightened the ecosystem. So they have something called just-in-time usage. So a lot of it has come down between the 2 years. Okay. Websites and third parties. 100% of the websites we studied have third-party trackers. An average of 22 third-party trackers are embedded in an average website today. Okay, about 15 of them are known. Rest of them are unknown, so we don't know what they're there for. Okay. 93% of them were for advertising and tracking, very, very clearly. Okay, sharing data with third parties. More than 95% of mobile apps and websites share data with third parties. On an average, share it with about 4 third parties. Okay. This one in the center tells you about the largest chunk of data going to, even if you're using an Apple device. Google is the biggest third party where data gets shared. Okay, I'm going to circulate a copy of this presentation to whoever wants it later. So feel free to ask us for it. Okay, so remember that data is being shared and you have no idea. So I'm sure this scenario will sound familiar to some of you, in fact, a little spooky. So let's say a couple is having at breakfast. Of course, this is in the pre-COVID days, where they decide to, let's say, go on a vacation to Bali during Christmas. Okay, so then the wife goes to her office and starts searching for hotels and flights to Bali using Google on her laptop. Okay. The husband, who's not done any search in his office, he logs into a new site on his iPad and he starts seeing promotional ads for Bali. Believe me, he has not done anything. Okay. By afternoon, the wife starts getting SMSs on offers to Bali. Evening, the husband's coming back, and in his car, he starts seeing ads for resorts in Bali on his Facebook feed. And then this just goes on and on and on. I'm sure you've seen this in many ways, in some form or the other, playing out in your family, right? This just shows the extent to which you're tracked today. So remember, there's a data unit under, as we call it, which is all legitimate companies, many of listed, who are putting all this data together, exchanging it between themselves, and richer profiles are being made about you. So therefore, what is privacy? So let's say you being with an organization, you certain data. In return, you enjoy certain rights and privileges, and I'm using the term rights very loosely, not so much from a legal perspective. Some of these are to do with data privacy. For example, if I'm the user, I need to know what is the person being used for, collecting more required, are you sharing the third without my knowledge, Can I access it and make corrections? Are you taking my for whatever you're doing with my data? Am I a profile tracked? And are you protected properly? The last bit is what the security aspect is about, but privacy is all of this. So a lot of people use privacy and security interchangeably and very loosely, but remember that this is one aspect of the whole privilege. Okay. Now, what can we do as users? We really can't do anything as individuals, because of which principles and rights are actually enshrined in laws. In India, we have a cause to be happy. The Supreme Court has declared back in 2017 that privacy is a fundamental right, which is very big because not all countries it is a fundamental right. And we have a draft bill being introduced in Parliament and is under debate. Globally, almost every country in the world has a privacy law. Okay, some of you may have heard about the EPR, which became very famous simply because of the stringency of the law and the penalties, which is as high to 4% global turnover. And most laws are sort of moving to that. Okay, so the question therefore comes is, what next? What do I need to do after I know, right? So if it's for your, let's take a business perspective. The reality is cyber risks have been continued. Okay, so as an organization, you will grapple with trying to even figure out what needs to be done, implementing what needs to be done, ensuring that it continues, finding the budgets for it, and finding people to help you manage the thing. The external environment is continually changing. Internal is changing. Seen what can happen overnight with the COVID scenario, and is that the industry has an acute shortage of resources. So if you're running a business, what do you do to manage risk? So what we say is, because we work with a lot of sources, okay, some basics that you absolutely need to put in place at the user end, right? Make sure, because people are today working from home, make sure you have proper connectivity for all your team members. Antivirus is installed on all machines and is updated regularly. Proper data backup measures are in place. User education, what they should not sharing, stuff with family members, ensuring that all users regularly patch all devices, very critical. It is sensible and what I call worth it in the long run. Certain investments to make, example, if you're having servers inside your office, it just makes sense to migrate them to data the cloud, less hassles all over, overall save costs. Okay. Invest in a good, mature productivity and collaboration suite like Office 365 will collaboration suite, because again, your email collaboration is taken care of over there, and you save a lot of time also. And in sick policies and processes and track them. Don't just lead. There are, from a financial point of view, almost every solution today has an OPEX model. As much as possible, gives you a lot of flexibility, using the best option in the market at any time. Okay. For you, family as individuals, we have something which we call the Arrka pledge, and that's what I'm going to wrap this up with. And I'm going to read it out because I think this is very important. So you take a pledge. You say, I am aware that my data has immense value. It is for many, and hence I will do all it takes to ensure it remains private and protected. I will not give out my personal details at unknown locations in return for freebies and discounts. I will avoid participating in lucky draws to me to fill out my form at random places. I'll think twice and ask why when I'm asked for my mobile number, email ID, and other personal details at places. I know a lot of us to shops and it's the first thing they encounter mobile number, and if they say fill system ko chahiye, fall for that. Okay. I will not give away any personal data to unknown individuals and callers who claim to be official representatives, and first verify their identity before I engage with them. I'll make I destroy and shred all documents containing important data. This includes the Flipkart and Amazon covers, come packages. Please make sure you destroy them before you throw them. Okay. I will download only those mobile apps that I need. I'll switch off dangerous permissions and which are not required. I'll download apps only from sources, which means Google and Apple stores. I'll delete which I don't use. Okay. Turn off third-party cookies and browser history from my browser and use the private browsing mode when I can. I think twice about what I post online. Remember that what you post is permanent, always, okay? And it can become public at any point in time. I'm really conscious about what I post online about children. Please, please, please be extremely full about what you post about your kids, okay? I'll switch off smart devices in the house, at home, and in the night. Refrain from using public Wi-Fi unless I absolutely need to. And if I do, I'll not do transactions from it. I'll not share my password pins and accounts with others ever. Okay. Basic hygiene. Change my passwords, not visit suspicious site, install and my devices regularly, update patches, and not share drives and storage devices. I will back up data from time to time. And bottom, remember that there is no free lunch. If something is offered for free, remember you are. So your Facebook, your Google, everything that's free, you are the product. So we'll move on to questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sorry. After seeing your presentation, it feels we should switch off every single thing online and go back to our normal data phone, which only has a call facility. So, because with so many risks, every app. Now, I started off with a question which I asked in the first part. Like, you have a bank app, right? And in your study, when you talked about all the apps which get information, now, especially I have a bank app. Now, all the banks may not be owning the apps. So what happens? Because I have downloaded the bank app, I do transactions on the bank app. So that information is being shared with other people.
That you'll have the bank. Okay. In our study, we have that banking apps have a significant outflow to third parties as well.
Okay.
And the reality on the ground is often the bank is also has not done testing and they're unaware of data which is going out to third parties. So yes, the reality.
So tell me then, in that case, is a website better to do payments or the app is better to do payments? I mean, now since we have to do digital payments, we have to be online. So is a website a better thing to do, or is the app a better thing to do?
So I want to clarify something. It's not as though your data is going to third parties. Okay. What is being shared is actually your behavior and online behavior, online digital kind of thing. Your financial data is basically second. Okay. Between the web and mobile, I come from a slightly old world, and I see that the web has been around much longer than the mobile world, and therefore is a lot more mature. So security technologies associated with the web are a lot more mature than they are in the mobile world. Okay, even the developers develop apps versus web-based applications versus mobile apps tend to be a lot more mature. And so I'm still more comfortable using as a interface while for financial transactions. But you have to weigh it against the benefits and risks. So if there are small payments to be made, I still would, I use the mobile app also.
Okay. Now there's a question which has come. What about Beam app, which is and Google Pay type of apps, which have just come? Now RBI has filed in the Supreme Court already that Google Pay is not a payment aggregator. So, but Google Pay says we only connect the bank directly to that. We are only a connecting mechanism. But there's a question which has come that what about the Beam app or what about the Google Pay kind of apps? Are they harmful to use?
So again, as I said, security perspective, from your financial information perspective, I do think that a lot of measures from whatever I have heard in the industry. So I'm worried about again financial data being leaked. I'm more worried about the other data, my behavior and
So financial,
how many transactions.
oh, sorry. So financial,
Financial
impact,
data.
I'm not able to, I think your voice is getting a little bit garbled in between. So we are not able to.
Okay. Okay. Is it clearer now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I do think that the financial data is taken care of. The surrounding known as metadata, generally my user behavior, all of that gets shared.
All right. Okay. Now coming to the next question of apps. Now there is a talk. Now we are doing this live on Zoom. Now because we had already paid for that, so we have been working on. So there is a question that this is not this takes a lot of privacy related information, etc. It is not good. We should ban all these apps. Now, what do you have to say on that?
We've been asked this question for a long time now, ever since the Zoom controversy started. So I look at, again, everything is a risk benefit equation. What I mean by that is saying that what are you using Zoom for? If it's something like this, if some of this goes out, is it matter to anybody? So I mean, whereas just are richer and therefore it makes you use Zoom, but I also weigh it against there's concern about data being going to another country via Zoom, but hey, Facebook, in Google, do you know countries that data is going? The amount of data that go via a Facebook, Google, etc., compared to Zoom, logging in for that session to Zoom and then you're switching. Whereas all these other apps are on online 27 on. So wait is that, don't just look at it from one perspective. So from an over risk perspective, I again go by saying, on what you're discussing on the video conference.
Correct. The other issue, normally we'll break the questions into two types. One is the individual related and the second is the business related. We'll start with the individual related because they are a little simpler.
Sure.
Today, a lot of smart home appliances, like you have the Alexa, the Google Home, which are used by a lot of people. I mean, even the kids are now using it. But I have read that these are also causes of concern. That if you have one Alexa at home and you do not know how to configure it properly, maybe your information also can get out.
Yes.
How true is that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listening devices, right? So they're built to listen to you and answer your questions, which means that they have the necessary algorithms to pick up keywords so that they're able to respond. Okay. So yes, things are being recorded, they're being analyzed. A lot of it is going back to centralized. And again, so it's a question of how much you want that smartness in the device vis-a-vis the benefits. So huge benefits. The engineer in me is hugely impressed by how cool those devices are. So I always say that maybe a good idea is just switch them off when you're not using them. Simple.
Okay, good. So next question has come because today a lot of senior citizens have challenge on using online transactions or online media, and they are scared. Now, how and what precautions they would need to take, because they would not be so tech savvy. They know to use it, but they're not very tech savvy because they need help. Possibly we need to help, or the junior generation needs to help them. So how would you, what would be the precautions that they would need to take?
Good question. So my mother is a tech savvy user of both her iPad and her phone, and she's online all the time. I first make sure that there is nothing related to financial transactions on any of her devices loaded. Okay. And I think I've trained her enough, and other senior citizens I know, trained them enough to, not give out phone numbers or anybody calling and asking for data. Sometimes, I know she takes it to the extreme that she doesn't give it out even when it's legitimately bad, but she does that rather than fall for any phishing kind of attacks. A bit of training plus restricting the apps that you absolutely need to use, and don't share their devices with somebody else with where there are other apps loaded. So minimize this on their device, them use it, and train them.
Okay. Now there's a question which has come that today everybody is using WhatsApp. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and Facebook is now Jio's partner. So should we expect that our data will be shared with both companies?
We don't know how that's out. I don't want to comment, but we really don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. Now coming to the business part related to data security, especially. Now there's a concept that most of us are being using free mails like the Gmails and Yahoos for a long time. But when it comes to business, does it make sense to use a paid mail, or it's okay to use a Gmail as well?
No two ways about it. It makes sense to please invest in a paid account, even if it's from Gmail, from Google, right? It is worth the investment. It is not very expensive. Okay, it is the cost of maybe 2 meals outside for you and your family, which you end up paying as the fee, and the benefits are huge. Please do not use email and for your business.
All right. Another question, which is today we talk about a lot of data being shared on cloud, or transfer to cloud. So the question is, what is beneficial? A cloud server? You mentioned a part of it in your presentation. What is beneficial? Your own server or a cloud server? So what should be a call that, trying to protect both security and privacy, which is a better call? The reason why most of the people are asking this question is because a lot of people have a problem in sharing data with on the cloud server. So they would prefer to have an own server in our office. So that is the reason why this question comes, that what is good in a way? Is a cloud server better or own server?
Okay, so that server in your office, so-called under your is connected to the net, then you just have, you're this impression that you're under control. But if you put the right security measures, controls in place, then so what if it's physically lying under your nazar? So I feel only believe that it is better either in your own server, it is, or hosted with a third party hosting provider, simply because amount of investments that they make on security, you will never be able to match. Okay, so you're purely from a security point of view, and also costs, okay, it tends to host it with somebody who knows what they're doing and are running it. Sure. Then coming to the privacy bit, which is, what about the data? Do they have data? You can put, there are clauses, there are options of how to configure the service, how to use it, what kind of control you keep with you, what kind of control you give to the service provider, is something which is completely configurable. Okay, so that's part B, but it's a no-brainer to host outside. Okay, because as individuals, we cannot. I know of Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, the top listed companies in India, who've completely outsourced their infrastructure. So as a small business, why are we even hesitant? And as there are options that are available to hosting.
Okay. Okay. The next question obviously is when it comes to investments in security. Now, this is a prime question for all businesses, right? So I have to invest. Now, what is the return that I would get? Because most of the business guys would obviously look at one part, and what if I'm investing X, okay? And what is the return? That is the first question. And second, what is the amount of investment that is required? Because small businesses may not afford. So 2 questions. The first question obviously is the investment and the return. And second, what is the minimum amount of investment that one has to make in such things?
Okay, great question. So first of all, there is whole concept of return. Okay, there's no return. I mean, it's a cost of doing business. If you are to overnight, if your infrastructure is compromised, or if your data is suddenly not available, or a regulator or a customer saying you have to put certain measures in place, you don't have a choice. It's a question of whether you can do business or not do business. So it's a little like insurance. What is the return in your life insurance policy? What is the return in, let's say, going for a checkup, right? You have to look at it differently. Secondly, I also look at it like how, as every small business, even if you're a 2-person business, you have to invest in having your accounts and in place, right? Make sure that is invoice, you have to file your tax, you have a choice about that. So managing your authority and privacy is the equivalent of that. So I don't think you should do this whole return business. It is important to look at this as managing a business risk, and it's not about technology. Okay, they're two different things, and it's important to realize this is all about management and not about IT. Okay, which is the wrong end of the stick. How much to win? A lot of people are under the wrong impression that investing in security costs a lot. Okay, so for example, one of the first things we tell a lot of our customers is like move data to the cloud, invest in a good, let's say, an Office 365 or a Google Suite. Why? Because you get automated backups, you get collaboration tools which are secure. You're not using free tools that are around, right? That itself brings down your risk exposure from X to a low Y. Okay, and a lot of it can be handled by processes and processes in place, like how managing finance, right? Every time you have to make a payment, you have people signing it, right? That's a basic control. Are you making any investment in that? No, it's a process control. Similarly, there are n number of things you can do at the to set up to make sure that you're you are secure, hygiene factors. And then of course, depend how complex your infrastructure is. You have a website out there with you're doing transactions, obviously it makes sense to test it out from time. So to answer in a short way, I think it's worth making the investment. I also believe we have reached a point where you don't have a choice anymore. Just as I don't have a choice about being a accountant to help me with business as and when required, this is of doing business. Similarly, this is the cost of doing business.
Okay. Now, second question which is related to this is most of the small businesses have a challenge of trained people. Half of the people may not be trained to handle. Now, you say that security is necessary. So if security is necessary, they don't have trained people to handle. How does one do it? I mean, is there an outsourced sort of a security solution which is available, or something that they can look at?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bit like, again, I give the analogy of finance and accounts, right? 80% of the work is done by us within the company, right? We raise our own invoices, we do our own payment transactions, we know our basic entry, where to enter. Like for example, we use Zoho internally. We don't need even a trained person. It's that there is 10% of that for which you need financial expertise, where they come to people like you, Amit, right, to get inputs. But so there is the ops level stuff, is the strategic, the expert level stuff, right? Go out and get expertise for that 10%, 5%. And there is nothing, this is not rocket science. A lot of times, if you have school or teenager kids, they would probably do, know what exactly to do, believe me, right? It is about just being smart. Yeah, there are services, for example, we set you up for it and then you run on. There is nothing complicated. This is not brain surgery, right? So set it up, use expertise as in, that's it. You don't expert. small and mid-sized companies to run stuff in.
So you as a company offer these sort of services as well, where you offer.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have a platform that automates a lot of this.
Okay. And one more question, which is because in today's context, which is working from home now, which involves none of the organizations were ready for such type of a concept at a mass scale. So a lot of file transfers now, are generally nowadays happening on a lot of small businesses on mails. Okay, so what is a best approach now? Because I can send it on an official mail, it will land, but again, it will clog my servers in terms of space, etc. So what is a better way to handle this, taking security and privacy both into consideration?
Today you have products that are available for smart file management. I'll give you an example of what we use, which is we use the Office 360, nothing to do with my make it upfront. Okay, where all our files are stored on OneDrive, which is remotely on the server, and we share files from there. So it allows to share at a group level, individual level. So we have files are not floating around on email. Okay, and email is also on the same cloud. So there are the equivalent of this. There are lots in the market. Okay, invest, as I said, in my opinion, it doesn't cost 3 meals out of the family. Okay, makes sense to use that. It's more structured, more organized, a lot more obviously secure, rather than having files place with Gmail or Hotmail or something like that.
Okay. So basically, these are, now there's a question which had come that the government has banned 59 apps. So is it mandatory to change passwords of emails, bank apps, passwords, etc.?
To our unconnected practice, please change passwords regularly. So and some of you may have come across this. It's like passwords are like your toothbrush. Okay, regularly.
Okay.
So no two ways about whether the app ban or not in place. You have to change your passwords.
True, very true. Now we can go on, but I think we are coming to a scheduled close of time, because we have, I think it was wonderful. It was quite a lot of enlightenment for all the people. Thank you, Shivangi. And thank you, viewers, for being. In case you need to have, she said she'll share the information and the PPT as well. You can email at info@saraswatchamber.com, info@saraswatchamber.com, where please give your mail IDs along with that, so the presentation would be given. And in case whatever questions we have asked, some may be unanswered due to paucity of time, she'll make a question bank, or sort of an FAQ for all the questions that are done, and that also can be shared on your emails. So please send in your email IDs and requests on info@saraswatchamber.com, so that it can be processed. And thank you very much. Thank you, Shivangi. Over to you, Bhushan, for the next.
Thank you for inviting me. Bhushan, you're on mute.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Shivangi, for wonderful, because sometimes this IT jargons look so complicated, but you made it very simple for a businessman or a layman for us to understand. And thank you, Amit, for getting this session very interactive. I think a lot of knowledge sharing must have happened to all our viewers who are present today. And this is there on YouTube. So if anybody has missed the session, can again visit and check on the YouTube. Again, I would request all the viewers who have not taken the membership of Chamber. It's a small nominal fees of 4,500 for 3 years. They can take the advantage, and we are coming up with a lot of webinars and a lot of knowledge sharing seminars in coming sessions, which are helpful for all the business and as community together. So I would like to thank everybody here coming and end this session. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.